Okay, let's talk about the last distinct method of picking that appears in my playing, and this is um, these two modes that I had called modes 4 and 5. If I were reclassifying, I would probably say mode 1 is mode 1, modes 2 and 3 I would probably call 2A and 2B, and 4 and 5 I would probably have called 3A and 3B, and the reason is because mode 2 and the kind of mode 3 Eric Johnson style, they really do blend together very well. Similarly, this mode, mode 4 and mode 5 blend together really, really well. But I kind of came at them at different times, so that was the original reason why I separated them out, because they appeared at different times in my development. But I think I probably should have recategorized them in that way. But modes 4 and 5 are whatever we want to call them now. They revolve around a different grip. My default grip is this mode 2 grip, which is on the side of my index finger and the pad of my thumb. Okay, and that's my grip for mode 2, where I have the fingers on the string. For mode 3, where I have my fingers tucked. And it's very, very easy to go from here to mode 1. All I do is just increase the thumb bump and lift the fingers up a little bit more. Okay. There's a bit more of a change involved in getting to the next grip, but you can see I can do it pretty quickly. That's this grip here, which is kind of like a reverse grip, kind of like a Shawn Lane type grip, or maybe Jorge Strunz type grip, where the pick is held between the pad of the index finger and almost the pad of the thumb. And you can see I have a pretty pronounced hitchhiker's thumb. It's not as severe as Shawn's, it's not as severe as like Tosin Abasi's or anyone like that, but it is a hitchhiker's thumb, and this is a comfortable grip for me as well. People have told me that this grip is not comfortable for them, and if it's not comfortable for you, then find an alternative that works for you. You can get fantastic results with other methods, so you don't have to incorporate this grip into your playing. But I do think it has a few special features and a few specific benefits that other grips don't have. The first specific benefit of this grip is that it has an extremely minimal pick depth. Because the pick is essentially buried in the first joint of my finger there's really very little available pick depth. And in fact, as I squeeze and tighten up a little bit, it gets even smaller. And if you look along the length of the string here, it's kind of a cracking the code magnet angle, you might be able to see that there's only about a millimeter of pick depth available to me with this grip. That is, this grip has a natural depth gauge to it, which prevents me from penetrating very deeply. The other aspect of this grip, which is very interesting, is that it provides an extreme degree of edge picking, purely as a function of the grip. Okay, and these two features combined make pick strokes almost effortless. Okay, there's very little resistance from the string there. It has a couple of drawbacks as well. The major drawback of this grip is that putting it on the string in this fashion, it slightly misaligns the fingers for hybrid picking. Instead of the fingers coming up along, perpendicular to the string, they tend to come more parallel to the string, which means that the finger pick note has a tendency to just do that rather than that. Okay, it's not as extreme as that, obviously, but it is a less convincing tone. It's not quite as good for me. I don't like it quite as much for hybrid picking. For hybrid picking, I definitely prefer this position, this mode 2 position. But this grip still has, most of the capabilities of the other grip. I can still, with the fingers on the string, do most of my sequences from mode 2. If I tuck the fingers, I have the Eric Johnson sequences pretty comfortably. But it also has a couple of special features. One of them is that because the pick depth is so shallow, the degree of angle of the picking plane to escape the strings is smaller necessarily. Okay, this is a calculation I showed on the form very recently, and since the picking depth is only about a millimeter at the maximum, the degree of angle of the picking plane is only about 6 degrees at absolute maximum, which means it's an almost invisible pick slant. Okay, it's very, very difficult to see that that's even a slanted movement at all. Okay. The other thing, of course, is that shallower pick depth means smaller arcs for cross picking. So there's a very good chance that with the movements that I've already been exposed to and I've already developed, that every picking movement here might be curved. I really can't tell. I think it probably is. I can still do my two-way pick slanting patterns, that's no problem. I can still do some cross picking. Although I wouldn't say it's necessarily optimized for those purposes. What this really helps me with is just shear speed, okay? Because there's so little resistance from the string, I can move very, very quickly across that string, and the movement is really, really hard to perceive when it's going at full speed. Also, this movement, I believe, still is probably mostly deviation, although I think there's probably some rotation in all of my movements. But we can see here that this is deviation. Still deviation, deviation but fast. And this is an elbow movement. And they look almost exactly the same from a camera's perspective. So I think this movement, or I believe this is an elbow movement, I should say, because of this this really imperceptible change in movement from wrist to elbow to wrist to elbow, I think this movement, I think this grip that Shawn Lane did, I think he actually did change his movements from a wrist-based movement to an elbow-based movement as he got faster. You know, obviously I can't be 100% certain, but I think so. So that's my fastest grip. How fast? Well, there's a couple of patterns on power licks that I can play. I mean, I have the capacity to move my hands at full speed. I have the capacity to move my hands on the descending sixes pattern as fast as Shawn did. It's not as clean as Shawn did it, but I have the ability to move my hand that fast. And how did I develop the speed? Just adopting the grip, trying to get that picking position that I see him use in videos, and just going hell for leather, just trying to move my hand as fast as I possibly can. And I can do some of the, maybe I can do some of these patterns while I'm still cold, I'm not sure. Something like that. And by the way, that extra noise you're hearing is actually, it's not strings ringing out, that's strings ringing behind the fret because I'm essentially hammering every note on. It's something you'll notice in Shawn's videos as well. There's a real degree of like this kind of noise, which is notes hammered behind the fret. But that's modes 4 and modes 5, and I think that they're really beneficial to me. I think there's something I'm very glad that I'm able to do this grip comfortably. I'm very glad that I'm able to make these movements, and I'm very glad that finally, after years of trying to, you know, just up the speed, just try to get faster, my body's actually figured out how to move with the wrist really quickly and the elbow really quickly. I didn't have that capacity even, 4 years ago. This is something that's really come recently from just going for it. So don't worry so much about the cleanliness when developing shear speed. Just really go for it and try to get the capacity to move the hand that fast. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's all of the picking techniques. I'm happy to maybe make some videos actually demonstrating them in context, or if there's a particular pattern you want to see how it works. Like for example, if you want to see descending sixes in each of the different grips, or if you want to, I don't know, see how I approach pentatonics with each of the different grips, we can do that, and it's no problem. But I think I think there are other topics that are probably better to make videos on, like the efficient digital cycles, or the fretting hand postures, which is something that I've been wanting to get to for a while now. Okay, well, I hope that was interesting. That's, as far as I understand it, a complete... Oh, one more final point. This grip is completely pick dependent for me. If I get a big pick, like this one, like this this Tortex that I held earlier, and I try to pick like this happens. I am simply rubbing the curved point across the string. It is a completely useless, pointless picking movement that does nothing. It just vibrates on the string. It's completely worthless. But if I have a sharp pick, a small pick, something that fits comfortably in my hand and has that nice point to it, it becomes an effective picking movement. So that's a final point. This is a really pick-dependent grip for me. The others, not so much. Mode 2 is pretty pick-dependent. I wouldn't want to use this with mode 2. I can still do the Eric Johnson technique pretty well, though. The big pick doesn't really bother me, but with mode 2, I feel like I'm wearing clown shoes. I think I've said that a few times on the forum before, that it feels like I'm wearing clown shoes whenever I use a big pick. It really does feel very awkward to me. I've also tried doing this Steve Morse grip, as you know, in the hope that I would have a technique that worked with a larger pick, but you know, I stopped putting work into that after a while. I felt that I'd rather just get better at what I already have mechanically, and start optimizing my lines to fit these positions that I use, rather than just to keep developing more different picking modes. Okay.